Tony Smith has written a piece today in The Sun on page 10, which says, take back control now. The UK cannot sustain this level of migration. We won't be able to build the homes, the hospitals, the surgeries and the schools to cope with 4.9 million more people. And it's a massive issue, this. Tony, very good morning to you. Thanks very much indeed for joining us.
Morning, Mike.
I mean, you and I have spoken many times about the problem with, the porous borders that we have, the fact that we don't seem to be able to, one, stop people from coming here, and then once they get here, we don't seem to be able to send them back either. We're learning a few lessons from the United States and Donald Trump right now, but this projection of how many people we're going to have living here in this country, I think is vastly underestimated, but at the same time very worrying.
Yeah, and I think people need to understand, Mike, that this is within the government's control.
Yeah.
We don't have to, it's not inevitable that this is going to happen. It kind of reads that way when you read the report, but actually 90% of immigration is controlled by our political masters who have the capability right now, if they want to shut off the visa routes. They could. Right, we made all this up. I've worked in that department for a great many years, and I say in the piece, for those 20 years or so, we had pretty level migration. The numbers coming in, the numbers going out were pretty flat-lined, and we controlled all of that. But suddenly, in the sort of 90s, late 90s, early noughties, then this new school or new wave of academic thinking came along, which said, well, actually, we should open up the doors. And even though, we've been told as voters that by successive governments, oh, yes, we need more immigration, better for our economy, we're going to get more growth, we're going to have better infrastructure. Well, has that actually happened, Mike?
Well, it hasn't. But that's the thing. I mean, I thought that particular myth was exploded in the early part of this year, where we found out that not only was immigration not boosting our economy, that actually, the fact was that many people coming to this country as illegal migrants and even as legal migrants were not contributing on a net basis to anything like growth, because many of them were bringing dependents with them. Many of them were costing the country more money than they were sort of giving back in tax. And so, that, I think it's time we exploded that myth about how immigration's good for the country.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it doesn't follow that more and more people are going to boost your economy.
Yeah.
GDP, obviously, more people here can produce more output, but it should be GDP per capita, Mike. It's what are you putting in and what are you taking out? There have been a number of studies recently by economists that demonstrate that actually most of the immigration that is coming into this country is not a net contributor to our economy.
Exactly.
And those policies that you describe, bringing in, lower skilled workers with vast numbers of children and dependents is clear. With a welfare state is going to be a significant drain on the economy. So, policy is manageable by the government of the day, but we just haven't seen any government for the last 20 years who promised to bring this down actually do it. In fact, they've done the reverse, and the year before last it was up to 900,000. It's down a bit because the Tories did do it a little bit on their way out on dependent visas and so on, but it's actually still, I think, unacceptably high. And I think most people reading these figures will be quite shocked to say, well, why is this happening?
Right.
Well, we don't have to happen, does it?
And why are we still such a magnet for people who come here from all over the world, who apparently have come through many safe countries? They might have landed up in Italy, which is now taking steps to stop people from landing in Italy in the first place. They might have come up through Germany, which is also now closing its borders. They might have come through Austria, which is also closing its borders. Netherlands, which is also closing its borders. They're all now making their way, even in bigger numbers, to the UK, because more and more countries in Europe are clamping down on migration of all kinds, and they figure that we're a soft touch.
Well, we do have a welfare state, don't we?
Yeah.
We do people here. We are like that. It's within our culture. It's within our DNA to look after people and actually give people a good opportunity. And if you are down on your luck, yes, you will get medical treatment. You will get somewhere to live. You will get help. I think that's a good thing, Mike. But actually, when that becomes, reverse on the hard-working indigenous population who are having to work longer, having to work harder to pay their mortgages, to buy property, and to see more and more people coming over here who are not necessarily contributing to the economy, be that legally or illegally, then I can understand why people get angry. And this is a long time and I'm quite angry about it because I do know that this is something largely that we can control in terms of visa policy. doing it.
Yeah, we're absolutely not. Good to talk to you, Tony. Thank you very much indeed. Big piece of the Sun today at page 10. Go and get it, find it. He says this: take back control now. The UK cannot sustain this level of migration. We won't be able to build the homes, the hospitals, the surgeries and the schools to cope with 4.9 million more people, which is what's predicted to come here over the course of the next 3 years.